Right now, society talks a lot about sibling rivalry and family dynamics, but there's one quiet wound that rarely gets named out loud. Millions of adults walk around carrying it without ever saying the words. You watch your sibling get the praise, the photo on the fridge, the proud stories at family gatherings, while you fade into the background. You tried harder, achieved more quietly, stayed out of trouble, and still felt like the spare part in your own home. And here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. When you finally stop chasing that missing approval, you don't feel devastated. You don't feel like you're missing out. You feel an overwhelming sense of relief, a quiet freedom. So how did you get here? How did you become the adult who no longer performs for love that was never fully given? Because the truth is, you weren't always like this. For years, you were the invisible one. You were the child who read the room perfectly, who absorbed the tension, who made yourself smaller so the favorite could shine brighter. You listened to their achievements being celebrated while yours were footnotes. You learned early that love in your house was a limited resource, and it wasn't allocated equally. But one day, something shifted. An invisible threshold was crossed. You stopped auditioning. You stopped explaining why you deserved notice. And the family didn't collapse. The world kept turning. Society might label you distant, resentful, or difficult, but your nervous system was actually running a very sophisticated protection program. Psychologists point to family systems theory, particularly the work of Dr. Murray Bowen, who described emotional cutoff and differentiation. When a child grows up in a system where favoritism creates chronic emotional scarcity, the unfavored one often learns to self-differentiate early, not out of cruelty, but survival. Your autonomic nervous system scanned for safety and realized constant comparison, conditional warmth, and being ranked second is not safe, so it quietly rerouted. It lowered investment in relationships that drain without replenishing. It conserved your emotional energy before total burnout. But we have to ask the deeper question. Why was your nervous system so quick to protect you from this particular pain? For most adults who were never the favorite, the roots go back to that early blueprint. You learned how to read disappointment in a parent's eyes before you could tie your shoes. You internalized that your worth was measured against someone else's light, and you always came up short. Renowned family therapist Virginia Satir talked about how children in unbalanced systems develop survival roles: the placater, the hero, the lost child, and the one who quietly absorbs the shadow side of the favorite dynamic.
That childhood wiring is still active today. But here's the nuance most people miss entirely. There's a world of difference between withdrawing out of fear and stepping back out of self-respect. Medical research warns that chronic loneliness harms the body. Higher inflammation, weakened immunity, even shortened lifespan. But what those studies rarely highlight is that staying connected to people who reinforce your old second-place wound destroys you just as fast. Toxic favoritism echoes in adulthood through relationships that leave you feeling undervalued all over again. So, how do you tell the difference? Listen to your body. If cutting contact or lowering expectations with family members who still play the ranking game brings deep physical relief, shoulders drop, breathing eases, mind quiets, you aren't isolating, you're detoxing. You're not building walls to keep everyone out, you're constructing boundaries to decide who actually deserves access to your energy. And you're exceptionally skilled at making that call. People who were never the favorite often become master pattern recognizers. Neurological studies show that children forced to navigate unfair emotional hierarchies develop hyperactive threat detection in the frontal lobes and amygdala. You're not overly sensitive, you just process relational data at high speed. When someone starts comparing you, even subtly, to others, you feel the old script loading. When praise feels performative or conditional, you spot it instantly. Your brain has logged thousands of hours of "I'm not enough" micro-experiences, building one of the most accurate early warning systems around.
When that system alerts you that a dynamic is about to drain your self-worth again, you listen. You're not cold, you're selective. There's a profound difference between loneliness and chosen solitude. Loneliness is starvation, craving connection and finding none. Solitude is intentional nourishment. It's choosing quiet because the quiet finally feels rich, safe, and yours. You're not sitting in silence wishing for validation. You're breathing without managing someone else's emotional hierarchy. People who never understood your position will accuse you of holding grudges or being unforgiving. But you know the deeper truth. You're moving toward a version of yourself that refuses to audition anymore. That isn't rejection of family, that's reclamation of self. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are not broken or unlovable. You are simply someone who learned, the hard way, that your peace has a high value and not everyone earned the right to spend it. The longest-running study on human happiness, the Harvard Grant Study, found something clear. It's not the quantity of relationships that predicts well-being into old age, it's the quality. Safe, reciprocal, affirming connections matter far more than a big circle filled with people who subtly remind you of old rankings. If your circle is small, but deeply respectful of who you are, no comparisons, no conditional warmth, you're doing it right. If this resonated deep in your chest, I'd really appreciate you subscribing so we can keep unpacking these quiet wounds together. Drop a comment below. Have you ever felt that sudden peace after deciding you no longer needed to prove your place? Protect your worth. You've earned it.